Witamy w 34. odcinku podcastu Życie Bez Gruchy. Dzisiaj mamy specjalny odcinek, bo nagrywamy z Polski, ale w języku angielskim, a naszym gościem jest Aidas, który odwiedza Polskę po raz pierwszy. Aidas, welcome to Poland for the first time and let's go ahead with this podcast about pre-COVID, then during the COVID situation, and then our predictions for like a short-term future and long-term future. Great to have you here in Poland.
Hello, Marcin. Hello, everybody. Good to be here in the tech capital of Poland. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is the tech capital. Like Krakow is kind of like a competition, I think. And Warsaw, I would say, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't live here, obviously, but that's what I hear. Warsaw would be like a more financial and also technological city, like one of the biggest city. So you've been to Warsaw?
And now I'm in Wrocław, and I like them both. And Wrocław is a really beautiful city. When we arrived yesterday, I'm really looking forward to spend a couple of more days here.
Yeah, and what do you think about Warsaw and the communistic buildings?
Oh, the communistic building, the main communistic building, the gift from Stalin to Polish people. You could see it from everywhere. It's a good reference point, because we were staying not far from it. So if I needed to get home, and I did not know the right direction, all I need to look for is the communistic building tower in the skyline, so I know where to get.
Exactly. So I'll stay there for a bit longer, but for now we're in Wrocław for a couple of days, and Aidas is gonna visit Basia that we had on the podcast before, and then you also read my book, and I'm also gonna visit Basia after almost a year or something like this. So anyway, going back to the main subject, which is the pre-COVID situation in the tech sector and in digital sector, and also digital is kind of kind of intertwined in every sector now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've had the chance to witness how the tech sector is able to cope with the pandemic like that, how business in general is able to cope with this. Some businesses have been able to do better, some obviously worse, some businesses have collapsed, no surprise. So you could say it's some sort of an eye-opener, this pandemic, in everybody's life, in businesses as to what's gone wrong, as to what could be improved. And we've seen a lot. We've seen the rise of the remote working. As you probably know, Twitter and UBS, an investment bank, have made an announcement that a lot of their staff could work remotely.
Google employees
or work from home for pretty much as they can. So it's great to see that the concept of remote working is now being adopted on a much bigger scale than before. And It doesn't surprise me.
And also the banks, which I'm very surprised that they would go for remote working, actually, post-COVID.
Yes.
Because they were forced during COVID-19 to kind of adapt to remote work. But right now, we see this change. Just today, I received a notification from Barclays, Piccadilly branch. You know, the big Piccadilly Barclays branch is closing down.
Right, forever. Okay. Yeah, banks close their branches quite a lot in the UK. And for the same reason, because a lot of their services can be accessed online. So you don't need to physically go into the branch and do stuff. Then you can do just what you could do, just log in to their interface and do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, so, but let's talk about pre-COVID. How was it before? Not so long ago, like 6 months ago, we could now reference that we had people that didn't trust remote work, companies, organizations, they didn't trust remote work.
No, we didn't.
But you were already working in this model for
yes.
3 years.
I and yourself and many of our colleagues are very used to this. Therefore, working remotely during the COVID period was just normal to us. However, it was not norm to other businesses. So as you said, before COVID, a lot of businesses did not see remote working as an option on the scale that it is now. They would still expect their colleagues, their employees to go into the offices. And it's a good thing that you mentioned how banks, are also reducing their office space. There was an article on Bloomberg not long ago how the office space in the city of London and the Canary Wharf, which usually is occupied by investment banks, is shrinking. And it's for the same reason. A lot of people can now work remotely, a lot of people can work from home, and a lot of services can now be accessed online. And this is an eye-opening moment. If you have a business and some of its services could not be accessed or managed online, you have some work to do. So better roll up your sleeves and get to it.
Absolutely, because first of all, you're not reaching as many people as you could. You're not improving the processes and your customers. If you have probably like older customers, maybe you'll be fine for maybe a decade or something. Probably not a decade.
Probably
sure.
not. And you know what? My mom is 76 and she does her online banking. She does not go to a bank,
right,
to transfer money. She does it online.
She does Facebook probably as well, yeah?
Well, not so much. Yeah. But the fact is that if we're talking about banks now, and she does not go to the branch as often as before because she can go online and do that stuff.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, so that's what's obviously is kind of triggering and forcing the change. The COVID-19 situation is triggering that change, and it could have happened way before the COVID. It could have happened 10 years ago.
Yeah, but you see, it's human nature. You only act when the shit hits the fan, and now shit hit the fan big time.
So people are very reactive rather than proactive. They will stay. If it's working, just don't touch it.
Yeah, if it's working, don't fix it.
Yeah,
that sort of approach.
That's because of a fear, yeah. Because if it's working, then maybe no, because I'll lose what I have already, so I don't want to lose that, and I'll stay with the way that it works already.
But you know what? The reality is, sooner or later, you're gonna lose, because there will be competitors who adapt to new modern technologies.
Yeah.
To
like Revolut, for example. Yeah, they don't have any branches.
No,
they're
we don't.
Doing great. I've been using their business offering, their personal offering, and it's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so you can find examples in any area of business. Let's take Thomas Cook, which had existed in the UK, correct me if I'm wrong, for 170 years or so. It was the longest
traditional firm.
Longest serving travel agency, and it collapsed probably last year, so before COVID struck. And the reason why it collapsed is because it could not adapt to the competition. They had a lot of branches. They were oriented to the customers who do not go online to book their holidays or their flights, but rather those who go to branches and get, a package holiday, which is not as popular as before. And with all the competition, with the lack of modern online technologies, with the mentality like that put into the practice, they obviously could not survive. And does it surprise me? Not at all. The fact that they existed for 170 years does not mean that they are secure and they're gonna be carrying on for many decades. Not at all. This is a good example. When you don't adapt, you fail.
Yeah, and that's a huge lesson. For example, that means that you cannot stay in the comfort zone. And we work with bigger organizations and we see that they're very slow, like a turtle, but they're moving, but they're very, very slow. And I'm just really impressed how the heck they can stay in the market for 10 years, when they're behind on technology. We're doing part of their technology, let's say, and they're behind 5 years and they're staying on the market. And that's incredible. So that just shows the scale. They're so big. There's a saying, too big to fail, yeah?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, that's not always true, as you know. And we at Emersoft, we obviously can help those companies to adapt. And that's what we've been doing. And that's what we will be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So, but as you said, too big to fail does not always apply in today's world.
Yeah. In today's rapid, unexpected, and incredibly technologically advanced. But again, there are also some downsides with, for example, remote working. I've just showed you today the news that I received. There is an article online that Twitter was hacked. So, Joe Biden account and many other celebrities. I could basically name them, but we can link this article here to this podcast. What do you think about that? And that is, sorry, I forgot to mention that the reason for this hack was because employees, some of the key employees, they were hacked, and there was like a social concentrated attack on those employees that were working remotely. So the hackers attacked their network, and they got
right.
into this.
It's good that you're mentioning that. So while working remotely, you need to be accountable for the data that you work with. And let's take a very simple example. If you work with the personal user data that lives on your laptop, you have to be very careful about it.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you leave your laptop somewhere, like our colleague's laptop got stolen in Mexico, thank God there was no personal data on it. But if you work with the personal user data and that data gets exposed, it could land you in trouble. It, in fact, could land you a prison sentence in some countries.
It could destroy the company.
It could destroy the company. So you got to be very careful with the data that you store locally on your laptop.
Yeah.
Best thing to do is not to use the real data. The real customer data has to be encrypted and stored in the cloud, in the server, and the secure databases, but not on your laptop. So what you need to do with your laptop is have like a demo, a mock-up data that you could work with. But you have to understand the risks of carrying a laptop or any other device which consists of a lot of personal user data. And you know what surprises me? That some companies don't even encrypt their passwords.
Yeah, we have cases of those.
We have a case. We're not gonna name those companies, but we recently here at Emersoft discovered a case where a previous client database did not have the user passwords encrypted.
So
this is crazy.
So imagine the hacker goes into the database and he's got no effort whatsoever besides just accessing that database to read the passwords.
This blows my mind that in today's world, somebody does not encrypt their password, does not hash their password. Encryption is not good enough. You need to hash the passwords. So the point is, like, if you work with the sensitive data, and let alone the password, let's take medical records, let's take user preferences, financial records, and if you carry it with you and you lose it, you could literally go to prison in some countries for that, right? So you need to be very accountable for the data that you work with.
Absolutely,
yeah. So that's what I want to impose on our listeners.
That's a downside, but also a solution to that problem that happens now with remote working. I mean, even if you're in the office, you can be hacked. But obviously it's more concentrated in the office, yeah? Like to get into the network. Usually in the office, like you have the work laptop and then you have your own laptop. But now as people start to working remotely more and more, they kind of mix them up, yeah? Like it's they're more open for attacks.
Absolutely. And in today's world, it's more important than ever before to make sure that you protect your personal data and any personal data that you work with.
Yeah. So what's next? So we said about how was it prior to COVID, pre-COVID. Now we need to say what Emersoft did during COVID and if it impacted us or not.
So let me tell you one thing. I had never been so busy as during the lockdown. We had a lot to do.
Yeah.
We helped our clients. We helped their businesses grow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do.
We helped their businesses grow and stay trading when so many businesses couldn't trade. For example, Primark.
Yeah, Primark had closed. Yeah.
They closed entirely. They didn't have any whatsoever online presence.
I think you're talking about TK Maxx.
Primark.
Oh, Primark as well. Okay.
There's a BBC article where Primark is actually they lost 200 million of revenue.
Okay.
Something like this in sales.
Okay, I did not know about
I'll send it
Primark,
to you.
but TK Maxx is the retailer that I use every now and then when I'm in the UK. They obviously had to close their branches. That's normal during the lockdown.
What's in the US?
TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx.
It's a TJ Maxx in the US and TK Maxx in the UK and Poland. I've seen TK Maxx's around Poland.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I saw them in Warsaw. So TK Maxx had closed their online store for a month or so, and I don't know what's the official reason, but I found it surprising that in the times when you want to generate more revenue, even when your branches have to be closed, they chose to close their online store, and that's weird. I don't understand the reason behind it. Then you could generate more revenue, putting more emphasis on your online business, you decide to close it.
I don't understand that. We need to investigate it more.
I think we at Emersoft here will investigate it, and
we
might
challenge
come up with a business strategy for TK Maxx and other struggling retailers out there.
I have some connections I met some people from TJ Maxx, I think in Toronto.
Okay.
Because they, in Canada, I think it's TJ Maxx. So
I think we may want to get on a call with them after this podcast.
I need to get on a call with them. I think it's Sanchez. I need to.
Yeah, and the reason why we want to get on a call with them, so their online store had opened. But if in case something happens again, if there's a COVID wave number 2, which might happen, we need to be prepared for this. Yeah. And then we also need to get our clients prepared for this. So it's not over yet. But we're learning from it. How important it is, to secure your online services. Mm-hmm. It's important how you adapt the technology. And in case something like that happens, which may, there's a constant increase of cases around the world, which is worrying. We need to make sure that all our clients and all our colleagues are prepared for it.
Yeah, but also politically, we have general elections that are coming up in the US. And as we know, when the US basically when the US farts, the whole world can sniff the effect. So because it's the biggest economy, they have over 900. Can you believe that they have over 900 military bases around over, and the second one I think is the UK with maybe 36 military bases. So you can see the scale. Military when it comes to influence that the US got. So with such a huge power in the US, now political elections, presidential elections coming up, there's lots of uncertainty with viruses around, whatever they call it, COVID-19. We don't know what's happening, but we know that the internet is not gonna go away, because if they switch off the internet, I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen. Because it's kind of like, if you look in the history, you like before for a business to operate, they had to let's say they're in California, they're based in California, and they let's say their services and clients, they could only operate in California, whereas now they can operate globally. And in fact, we see that lots of startups in California, technological startups, are global brands.
Yes, and it's good that you mentioned US, which basically has the most COVID cases, I think, to this day in the world.
Because they test a lot as well. I mean...
well, my point is, what I want to say, that within the first or 2 weeks, there were 10 million Americans losing their jobs when the COVID started. And this is very worrying. It makes me sad. It makes me upset, and it makes me think that something with the business and living model that we're so used to is wrong. That so many people have to fight for their survival, when the pandemic like this strikes.
But at the same time, lots of people don't have any savings. At the same time, lots of people live very, vicariously. They're just working from Monday to Friday, and then they spend all the money on the weekend.
Right. Like drinking out and stuff.
Drinking out, and they're not really thinking about investments. There's lots of people like this.
But even from the business point of view, this is really saddening that, millions and millions of people have to be made redundant because businesses were not ready for it. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
and it goes back to what we're talking
But, you know,
about. If you don't adapt
yeah.
to online technologies and spreading your business online,
Yeah.
you can't prevent this from happening.
I agree that's a responsibility of the management to provide structure, systems for people to be more secure so they can execute their day-to-day jobs better. Because at the end of the day, majority of the people, they're masses.
Absolutely.
They follow the systems that we have already set out.
Well, you know, you made a good point. Like, people earn money and they blow everything out over the
Yeah.
weekend. Yeah, we could apply the same saying to businesses.
Yeah.
Like, if you earn money and you don't have any savings for a day like that, like, if you only can survive whenever the world, you know, is running in the way that we used to, and if tomorrow, you know, you don't have any income, and then your business collapse, there's something wrong with your business then. I think
Yeah, and
there's
then
something wrong.
lots of businesses were affected.
I know.
In the UK, I heard. I mean, definitely.
No, of course.
We're in Poland now. Poland economically is even less stable than, let's say, the UK.
No, there's
or the
nothing
US.
to cheer about. Of course, business have been affected, but what we're trying to say is how to minimize the effect, how to minimize, you know, the
how to protect.
redundancies and stuff.
Yeah.
Of course,
how to
businesses will
prepare
be
ourselves
affected.
better.
Of course, businesses will be affected. It's normal.
Yeah.
But to what extent?
Yeah.
To what extent they're affected? If we can, you know, mitigate as many risks as possible. If we can make, you know, our businesses more resilient to what's happening, again, I go back to expanding
And
to
one of the
online.
ways is to work remotely, like we did during the COVID-19, pre-COVID-19 as a business. And we did it, and we did so well, and we're doing great, is because we designed the business and then we executed everything 3 years prior to the situation. We didn't know that would happen.
No, it
We just did it because, first of all, we were passionate about it. We wanted to be free. I mean, I'm saying, you know, we're free, but geographically free, in a way.
Yes.
You still need to consider time zones, etc. But lots of people still, they're not, I see even lots of software developers and businesses, they're still not, you know, taking the lessons from what happened.
So, Martin, our job here is to teach them those lessons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why
we're here to help.
Podcast.
Guys, we're here not to criticize. We're here to
okay.
highlight the positives and the negatives, and we're here to help. Right? So if you have struggling business, come talk to us. We'll help.
Absolutely, yeah. Struggling in a way that you already have some revenue, because if you're not doing anything, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to broke people. I'm not a Jesus. Although some people claim that I am.
Who are the people claiming that you're Jesus, Martin?
I don't know. The people that claim that I'm making money. So anyway, if you need help with your technology, if you have a technology business, and not only, we work with clients they have pretty much nothing to do with technology. They did their first e-commerce with us. They did their first website with us. They did their first online systems, you know, integrations with other components. Then if you need such services and you're listening to this podcast, then yeah, come and talk to us, and we'll see how we can help you.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about the last point, which is how do you envision the short-term future, let's say 3 to 6 months, so past the general elections in the US, and then the longer term, let's say 5-year. What do you think will
I think
happen?
next couple of months will be defining the future. Beyond that point, obviously the increasing COVID cases is gonna affect.
Duda will define the future.
Well, Duda will define the future in Poland.
We had a joke. We need to tell them this joke. So Aidas came to Poland and Duda was elected here. We don't go into details whether that's good or bad. Basically, he was elected as an incumbent president. And we said there's a funny joke that Duda is paying for everything because of the
because of
all
the
this,
election that he won.
and all the social spending that they're doing as well. So
So Duda has been very generous, and he's been paying for our lunches,
for our trips,
and drinks in Poland. And if he keeps on doing that, I might be coming to Poland more often.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got the magic wand. They can print money.
Yeah, but didn't Pavel say that he already announced that he's not gonna be able to deliver some of his promises 24 hours after the election?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's like politicians. They promise a lot, and then they.
It's a funny world we live in, right?
Yeah, and then they don't deliver. But politically, Poland doesn't have much to say on the global arena. So
I think in European terms it does. It's a big country in European terms.
I think it's like between Germany and no, I think it's like Poland is kind of I would say very dependent on Germany, and then that's what it's like. You have Mexico and it's dependent on US. So always the weaker country is dependent on the stronger country in some way. So and then also the US, Poland has got a very good alliance with the US. So that's what it is politically. But anyway, going back to
your question about the future. So the future is going to be very much dependent on COVID, and so will be the businesses. I'm really happy to see how the life is returning to normal in many countries, not in the US yet. But
in Poland, definitely. It's one thing that I really like.
So is in Lithuania.
That I came here from the UK. I mean, UK has been open anyway, but Poland is entirely open. Everything is open here, pretty much.
Yeah. So is in Lithuania, my home country. There's a feeling that the COVID has never been there. Like nobody wears masks anymore. So I would really much like to think that's the way it's gonna stay. But if there's a second wave of this pandemic, then obviously it will not stay that way. Now I hear the opinions that even if there's a second wave, there wouldn't be such a massive lockdown, but they would rather lock down the areas like Leicester in England, like Hong Kong, like some cities
and
in
I
the
think
US.
That's what they should do initially, but they panicked. Lots of countries panicked, they pulled the trigger, and then all the other countries, they followed.
Mind you can't also, criticize them for this. You don't know how to act
but it's good for
when
us.
something like this strikes.
From the digital point of view, it's great.
Yeah, so whenever it strikes again, if it strikes again, we'll have more, experience on how to act. And talking in practical terms, I think there will be local lockdowns rather than countrywide or region-wide lockdowns.
So we predict local lockdowns.
Local lockdowns, which means that the businesses will be able to cope with that better.
Yeah.
So talking to the physical, locations, be it a bank branch or being the office, they will stay open.
And I think businesses will invest into their infrastructure now. They will wake up after lockdown and say, okay, now we really need to automate our processes. That's what we're doing with our clients, and we see a huge surge of revenue.
Absolutely. And look at the success stories of delivery company profits, of how well, for example, they
Amazon.
did. How well they did during the lockdown, and some local Lithuanian delivery companies, they flourished. They flourished during the lockdown. It makes sense.
Absolutely,
and obviously, they all have their management services online. They have all the tools so that people without leaving home could go and order stuff. So we got to look at the success cases during the lockdown and learn from them. And my learning is you have to have a very robust, resilient online service that people could go on to and use your services there.
Yeah, I agree. So it's all about infrastructure, and that's what we're here for. And that's why we're reporting this business panel as a podcast. So just as a closing note, we used to do those business panels in London with Pavel and yourself, Aidas.
Yes, and this time, again, the lockdown had to modify our plans a little bit. We're doing it not in London, not in Asia, but in Wrocław, Poland.
Yeah.
Great location, I have to
We're
say.
supposed to be in Thailand now. We had plans to be in Thailand and then in the US, but unfortunately that has to change. So
Yeah, well, not for worse. I
no.
really like to be here.
we're very positive. Like lots of people are negative and they say, oh, it's gonna be depression, you know. And I think we should be more hardworking and focused than ever before.
Well,
because-
let me tell you something. If you think there's gonna be a depression, you're gonna call for it.
Yes.
You're gonna get it.
And we in Emersoft we act
We act without limits to our abilities.
correct.
And I'll tell you this thing: there's not gonna be depression in Emersoft,
Yeah.
and there won't be depression in any of the
we
clients
decide
that
not
we
to
work with.
we decide not to take part in any of the depressions.
No, I don't know about you. I'm not taking part in the depression.
Me neither. So Aidas,
There's no place for me in the depression.
amen. And in Emersoft we only fucking go. That's what we do.
We only fucking go, and we only go fucking 90 degrees up.
And Aidas, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me
I
here.
appreciate you on this podcast. On this happy note, all the best. Enjoy Poland, and I'll see you in.
Thank you.
I'll see you in London.
Thank
next
you.
time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Życie bez gruchy. Jedyny życiowy podcast w Polsce stworzony dla geeków.